What's up guys, I'm James and welcome to BootWizard Boot Reviews. Now earlier I posted a huge rant because I was so wound up about this Super League and how terrible it is. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to break this down for you in as simple terms as possible so that everyone can understand exactly what this Super League is, why it's operating like it is, and why people are so outraged by this particular Super League. So remember to like the video, get subscribed to the channel. You'll notice if you've followed me for a while that this is not my regular setup. This is school time, school is in, whiteboard's out, let's learn some stuff. The Super League is a midweek competition and it's still going to run exactly at the same time as the Champions League. So the Champions League and the Super League would both still happen. One of the biggest differences and the biggest talking points is that there is guaranteed qualification for the Super League for the founding members. There is no requirement for these founding members to actually qualify. So who are these founding members? Super important to know who we're dealing with. We have 12 currently confirmed founding members that have come out and said that they are going to be part of this Super League. These are our 12 who's, the 12 teams that are already confirmed as wanting to be part of the Super League as founding members. They're Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus, Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona and Real Madrid. Along with these 12 founding members, we're also expecting to get 3 more. These founding members have announced that they're anticipating 3 more members to join who are as of yet unknown, but we're expecting them to be of a similar stature to the teams that I've already mentioned. Maybe teams like PSG, although at the moment it seems like PSG are not keen. So we have our 12 founding members plus 3 mystery founding members. And all of these will gain automatic qualification to this European Super League, irrespective of their league performance. That makes these people permanent founding members. However, they've come out and said that the Super League will consist of 20 teams. So that means there are 5 spots still available. Those 5 spots will go to 5 people, 5 teams who will qualify. 2 of those teams will qualify via their UEFA coefficient. So a UEFA coefficient is a number that UEFA assigns to teams based on their performance in European competition. So teams that have won the Champions League, have got very far in European competition, are going to have a higher UEFA coefficient. So let's give these guys some fun hats too, so that we know exactly who they are. Now, because these are on the UEFA coefficient qualification, that means they're still going to be big teams. So this is 2 teams that are going to have history in Europe, have done very well in Europe. For example, if Liverpool weren't part of this founding members, Liverpool would qualify as a UEFA coefficient team for next season should this go ahead, because they have such a high UEFA coefficient, irrespective, once again, of their league position, because currently Liverpool do not hold a Champions League position and they wouldn't really be in a position to qualify for any kind of Super League. But they're founding members, and even if they weren't, they would get in by being part of these 2 qualifying teams who qualify as a result of the UEFA coefficient. Did I say UEFA coefficient enough times there? Alongside our 2 UEFA qualified teams, we get 3 more teams. Now, we don't have much information on who these teams are going to be, but we assume that they're going to be some kind of champion teams. So there'll be teams that will be invited to take part as a result of their performance in their domestic leagues. So you would assume that they will be some kind of champions. So let's pop those in there. We could be looking at teams maybe like Ajax or other teams that have done particularly well in their league. They would also be invited to take part. So we have our founders, our qualified teams, bringing our grand total to 20 teams competing each season, 5 qualified, 15 that will be automatically permanent founding members. While we're talking about who, we should also talk about the board, the people who are running this. Now, it's being run by these permanent founding members, and the inaugural president is Florentino Perez of Real Madrid, and the vice president is Joel Glazer of Manchester United. So the whole thing is being operated by these permanent founding members that have already declared. Next up, we've got a simple one to answer. When is this going to happen? And essentially, the answer is ASAP. They want to start this as soon as it is logically possible, which you would assume means they want to begin next season. So next season, this would be part of the footballing landscape. That's the statement from these 12 permanent founding members. So now we know what, who, and when. Let's talk about how. How is this competition actually going to work? Is it going to be the same as what you're going to get from the Champions League? And the answer is not really. What you're going to take is you're going to take these 20 teams that have already qualified and you're going to break them down into 2 10-team groups, so 2 10-team leagues. Of course, these are made up of our founding members and those who qualified. So let's give them some fun hats. Out of these 2 10-team groups, we're going to get 3 teams who automatically qualify, the top 3 teams from each group. So at random, we're going to select 3 teams to escape their group. And of course, we're going to give them some fun hats because, you know, fun hats are fun. The 4th and 5th place teams will then play in a playoff, and that will decide one more team from each league to come out and join what will be the quarterfinals. From there, it's a standard structure, pretty similar to what we get from the Champions League. We've had quarterfinals. We now are going to get our semi-finals, which of course is going to lead down to our final. And then of course, our overall Super League champion. Next, we of course have to consider why. Like, why is this happening? Why do clubs want to do it? And in essence, these clubs, these founding members, are unhappy with the current UEFA system, and they're claiming that they can gain increased revenue and they can also achieve increased distribution of revenue throughout the leagues by using their Super League system instead of the existing UEFA system. Now, UEFA, of course, are not above criticism. UEFA are an organization that I have been critical of on many occasions before, and they can definitely do better. There are Champions League reforms that are coming that have been fought for by the ECA, the European Clubs Association. We will get onto those in just a second and how these teams have actually left. But the ECA has fought for reform. These clubs are not happy with the reform that's coming, and therefore they are looking to build this European Super League because they believe that these items are going to be more beneficial to them, and critically, they're saying other clubs. With all that in mind, why, again, is there so much outrage? Why do we think, as a football community, why do I think that this is a bad idea? Firstly, and quite critically, I think that these 12 Permanent founding members, remember, do not have to qualify. They just automatically get inserted based on status and being a founding member. There is no relegation from the European Super League for these teams. This reduces the amount of competition. It reduces the excitement. And realistically, as a closed league system like this, it reduces what football is actually all about. These teams being protected from all kinds of relegation and being guaranteed to enter this tournament every single year is a huge problem with this format. Now let's get to the crux of the matter. We're going to talk about the money side of things. So here we have the UEFA Champions League and its pot of money. This is the amount of money that UEFA makes from the Champions League, or the amount of money that UEFA has. They take some of that money and some of it goes back into UEFA. Some of that money goes out to Champions League teams and some of that money gets funneled down into various programs and other teams that maybe aren't in the Champions League, all the way down to grassroots, which is really important because that is the crux of football. That is really what we need. And then, you know, we've probably got a little squiggly line out here that goes somewhere off to corrupt politicians. You know, we probably should include that because UEFA is certainly not absolved of blame, despite the fact I'm going after the Super League here. Then we take the Super League clubs and their pot of money. So that's going to be affected by their exposure, the brand deals, and the TV revenue that they can bring in, as well as money from the clubs who are actually going to take part. So you start to build a nice pot of money for the Super League clubs as well. What this Super League wants to do by breaking away from the UEFA Champions League is they also want to take a nice slice of that Champions League money over here with them. They want more funds from this because any of this is going to reduce the amount of money that UEFA has. Less money for corrupt politicians is good. Less money for grassroots football, not so good. You've also then got to consider the domestic leagues. So the plan is that all of the teams that compete in this Super League will continue to operate in their domestic leagues. And domestic leagues have a nice little pot of money as well. Now, because of this Super League, because of the way this works, the Super League want to take a nice little chunk of that too. They want to get their money from the domestic leagues, the amount of money they would normally get from these leagues for participating in them, and they want to funnel it back into their clubs, as well as taking the money from the Champions League. Everything that they do just starts to increase the size of the money here. Now, if they're taking this money and they're taking money from the Champions League, what we'll find is that the remaining clubs in the domestic league have run out of hats. These people can have no hat. So these are all the clubs that are left in the domestic leagues. They have less money to take because the Super League clubs take this. There's this much left in the Champions League. This is now less money. This is less money. This is less money. And that all in all means less money going to grassroots and back into the clubs that are competing in the domestic leagues. There's less money for everybody apart from these Super League clubs as their pot grows and grows. So how has it come to this? You've got these teams that are unhappy and they're all part of the ECA, as I mentioned before, the European Clubs Association. And all 12 clubs that are part of the ECA that have also broken off to try and start this particular Super League, they've all left. So they're no longer part of the ECA, who are the ones that are lobbying for change and trying to make change with the existing Champions League structure. You also have members of UEFA. So many of these people, many of the board members, many of these people at club level who are also part of these 12 or 15 permanent members of the Super League were also on the board at UEFA. They have also left. We do now also have to consider, is it going to happen? I'm very much running out of paper. This has taken a long space. But is it going to happen as my handwriting gets worse? Well, FIFA, and UEFA have both said that any players competing in the European Super League will be banned from competing at World Cups and European Championships. So any players competing for any of these Super League teams will be banned. Now, of course, this is potentially huge because it means a lot of these players are going to leave. And if these players leave, does this pot, does the exposure, brand deals, and TV revenue become worth less money for the Super League clubs if their star players start to leave? Well, there's the argument that they won't leave because they'll be offered more money because this pot is so huge. But for a lot of players, it's going to be a big deal that they want to represent their country at World Cups, at European Championships, and those players leaving could have a huge knock-on effect. There is the argument that many players will stay for the money, but I think many will leave. So with that in mind, is it likely that this is even going to happen? The final nail in the coffin for this particular plan should come from the domestic leagues. Domestic leagues have all spoken out about how they are not for this particular movement, both domestic leagues and governments. So by speaking out about this, they're saying, we don't want this, and they can impose sanctions. They could say, if you go and play in the European Super League, you are no longer welcome in our domestic league. Imagine kicking out Man United, Man City, Liverpool from the Premier League because of this Super League system. The question is, do these domestic leagues have the balls to do it? And the answer might well be no, and that is where we come to the main problem with this entire situation. All the power in football currently resides with those that have the most money. This has been a problem that has been growing and growing for years as those clubs that have the money have been able to take the power away from the domestic leagues, the domestic federations, because these have been mismanaged. UEFA has been mismanaged and FIFA has been mismanaged, allowing this to happen. There needs to be a full and radical change from top to bottom within the football game, within Europe and the world, in order to prevent things like this from actually happening. This could be the only positive thing to come out of this whole situation. I do not believe that this European Super League will go ahead because I think there will be too many roadblocks put in place and clubs will not be able to justify joining. If they do join, I state right now to you watching this that we should boycott, that as fans, we boycott this for all of the reasons that I've mentioned here. The fact that this is simply wrong. This is against football. This is not what football is all about. An elite closed league that allows teams who have money to exploit the power that they've already gathered through mismanagement by domestic leagues. I say, if this goes ahead, you, me, everybody, we boycott. You don't watch it on TV. You don't go to the games. And I know that's a lot to ask because you want to watch the biggest games. But are the biggest games worth it when they're every week? Are the biggest games worth it for the grassroots of football to be depleted, for football to be removed and eroded at its very core? I've started to rant, and if you do want to see me rant, check out my other video, which was my initial reactions on this particular topic. I'll leave a link to that up in the top corner. But I don't believe this will happen. But if it doesn't happen, when we get out the other side of this complete catastrophe, this complete nonsense that's being created, we need to look at UEFA, at FIFA, at domestic federations, and we need to work out how football needs to be changed from that level, how football needs to be adjusted in order to stop this happening. The only good thing that can come of this is that we realize how broken the institution of football is around the world, and this needs to be stopped. And this might just be the wake-up call that we need in order to fix it. And because clubs have made this move, are they making this move just to get more power and more money when it comes to negotiating with UEFA? And I say, if that's what they're doing, if this in the end is a power play to get more out of UEFA when it comes to the UEFA Champions League, we say no. The line is drawn here. The line is drawn right there. This is the line in the sand. No more. I'm a Man United fan, and today I'm embarrassed to be a Man United fan. Embarrassed about the status of football, and embarrassed for these 12 clubs that have decided to tear down the fabric of the world's game.